Dramily.com, unlimited drama series.
My Honda Civic chose the worst possible Tuesday afternoon to break down on Interstate 5. Rain hammered the windshield as I coasted onto the shoulder, hazard lights blinking like a neon sign advertising my mechanical misfortune. The engine made one final wheeze before surrendering completely. I'm Jason Mitchell, 34 years old, EAT consultant for a mid-sized firm in Bellevue. Not exactly the kind of guy who inspires fear or respect, but I've learned that being underestimated can be an advantage. My phone buzzed. A text from Danielle, my wife of 6 years. Gym session running late. Can you pick me up at 7? Perfect timing. I called AAA, then grabbed my keys and wallet. Danielle's white Lexus RX sat in our driveway like a monument to her success as a PR executive. She earned twice what I made and never let me forget it. The drive to Elite Fitness took 20 minutes through suburban Seattle traffic. The gym occupied a converted warehouse in an upscale district, all glass and steel with motivational quotes painted on exposed brick walls. I parked near the entrance and walked inside. "Can I help you?" The security guard, a thick-necked guy in his 50s, looked me up and down. My rain-soaked jacket and scuffed sneakers didn't exactly scream member. "I'm here to pick up my wife, Danielle Mitchell." He checked his clipboard. "Oh, her husband already came by about an hour ago. Left this for her." He handed me a Louis Vuitton bag I recognized as Danielle's. My stomach dropped, but I kept my expression neutral. "Her husband?" "Yeah, tall guy, really built. Said he'd meet her outside." I took the bag and thanked him, walking back to the Lexus on autopilot. Inside the car, I opened the bag with trembling fingers. Beneath her usual collection of protein bars and makeup was a small jewelry box I'd never seen before. The necklace inside was platinum with a diamond pendant. Expensive, the kind of gift that meant something. The card tucked underneath made my hands shake. "For my beautiful Danielle. Love, Jonas." Jonas. I knew that name. Jonas Hartwell, hedge fund manager, lived in the penthouse downtown. We'd met him at a charity event last year. Danielle had laughed at all his jokes, touched his arm when she spoke to him. I sat in her car for 10 minutes, rain drumming on the roof, processing what I'd discovered. Most men would have stormed back inside, made a scene, demanded answers. But I've always been a planner, a problem solver. This situation required strategy, not emotion. My phone buzzed again. "Where are you?" "I'm waiting by the side entrance." I drove around the building and found her standing under an awning, looking perfect despite supposedly finishing a workout. Her blonde hair was styled, her makeup fresh. She didn't look like someone who'd been exercising. "Car troubles," I said as she climbed into the passenger seat. "Had to take the Lexus. Poor baby," she said, not looking up from her phone. "We'll get it fixed tomorrow." During the drive home, I studied her profile. Danielle was undeniably beautiful, with sharp cheekbones and green eyes that could charm anyone. She'd built her PR firm from nothing, using her looks and intelligence to win over clients. I'd admired that ambition once. "How was the gym?" I asked. "Good. Did some cardio, worked with the trainer." She was still typing on her phone, thumbs flying across the screen. "See anyone interesting?" "Just the usual crowd." Her tone was casual, but I caught the slight hesitation. At home, she disappeared upstairs to shower while I made dinner. I used the time to examine her phone, which she'd left charging on the kitchen counter. Her passcode was our anniversary date. Apparently, she hadn't changed it yet. The text messages told the story I was dreading. Conversations with Jonas going back 3 months. Nothing explicit, but the tone was unmistakably intimate. Lunch meetings, coffee dates, late-night conversations about their connection. I scrolled through her location history. The boutique hotel downtown appeared frequently, always during her supposed client meetings. The timeline matched perfectly with her recent schedule changes. "Dinner smells great," Danielle said, appearing in the kitchen wearing a silk robe. She looked relaxed, content, happy in a way I hadn't seen in months. We ate in relative silence. She talked about her day, her clients, her plans for the weekend. I nodded and made appropriate responses while my mind raced through possibilities. After dinner, she went to bed early, claiming exhaustion from her workout. I stayed downstairs, ostensibly watching television but actually planning my next move. I could confront her directly, but that would only lead to denials, arguments, maybe a messy divorce that would leave me with nothing. Danielle was smart, connected, and ruthless when cornered. A direct approach would be suicide, but I had advantages she didn't know about. My IT background gave me skills she underestimated. My quiet demeanor made people overlook me, assume I was harmless. Most importantly, I had time. She thought I was clueless, which meant I could gather information, build a case, plan my response. I opened my laptop and began researching Jonas Hartwell. Social media profiles, business records, property ownership. The man lived an open book lifestyle, posting constantly about his success, his lifestyle, his conquests. His Instagram showed photos from the same boutique hotel where Danielle had been spending her afternoons. Recent posts included pictures of expensive jewelry, wine bottles, romantic dinners for two. The timeline matched her location history perfectly. By midnight, I had a clear picture of their affair. 3 months of deception, elaborate lies, stolen moments in hotel rooms. While I worked late to pay for the life she was using to betray me, I closed the laptop and went upstairs. Danielle was asleep, or pretending to be. I lay beside her in the darkness, listening to her breathing, planning my revenge. She wanted to play games? Fine. But she'd chosen the wrong opponent. The next morning, Danielle left for work with her usual kiss on the cheek and reminder about her late client dinner. I waited until her Lexus disappeared around the corner before making my first move. My friend Kevin worked in digital security and owed me several favors. I called him from my home office, a converted spare bedroom filled with computer equipment and technical manuals. I need help with a surveillance project, I told him. What kind of surveillance? Kevin's voice was cautious. He knew me well enough to sense something was wrong. The kind where I need to know if someone is where they claim to be. Kevin was quiet for a moment. This about Danielle? Maybe. Can you help or not? I can set you up with some tracking software, show you how to access location data. But Jason, if you're going down this road, be careful. This stuff can get messy fast. We met at a coffee shop near his office. Kevin handed me a flash drive and spent an hour explaining how to install monitoring software, access phone records, and track vehicle movements. Legal gray areas, but nothing that would land me in prison. The key is plausible deniability, he said. Never do anything that can be traced back to you directly. And for the love of all that's holy, don't do anything stupid. That afternoon, while Danielle was at her client meeting, I installed the tracking software on her laptop and tablet. Her password security was laughably weak. She used the same combination for everything. Her calendar revealed the truth in stark detail. Client lunch entries that corresponded to Jonas's social media posts. Strategy sessions that lasted exactly as long as hotel room reservations. Networking events that never appeared in any business publications. But the real treasure was her email. Months of correspondence with Jonas, growing progressively more intimate. Plans for weekend getaways, discussions about their future together, complaints about her boring husband, who was too stupid to notice what was happening. That last part stung, but it also confirmed my advantage. They thought I was an oblivious fool, which meant they weren't being careful. I printed the most damaging emails and stored them in a safe deposit box I rented that afternoon. Evidence for later use. My next stop was Elite Fitness. I paid for a day pass and spent an hour observing the layout, the staff routines, the security cameras. The guard who'd given me Danielle's bag was named Pete, according to his name tag. He seemed friendly enough, the type who enjoyed gossip. My wife mentioned you helped her yesterday, I told him during a casual conversation. Really appreciate it. No problem. Though I gotta say, your wife's got good taste in men. That other guy was a real gentleman, very polite. Other guy? The one who left the bag. Tall fellow, expensive suit. Must work out here regularly. He knew exactly where to find her. Ha! I thanked Pete and left. My suspicions confirmed. Jonas was picking up Danielle from the gym, probably taking her directly to their hotel rendezvous. The security guard's innocent mistake had exposed their routine. That evening, Danielle came home late, full of apologies about her difficult client dinner. She smelled like expensive cologne and wine. Her hair slightly mussed despite her attempts to fix it. How was your day? She asked, settling onto the couch beside me. Quiet. Fixed the Honda. Caught up on some work. You know, boring husband stuff. She laughed and kissed my forehead. You're not boring, honey. You're stable, reliable. The condescension in her voice made my jaw clench. But I smiled and pulled her closer. Just trying to be the man you deserve. Over the next week, I established a routine of careful surveillance. I tracked her movements, documented her lies, and built a comprehensive picture of her affair. Jonas was married too, though his wife traveled frequently for her own career. Their affair was convenient for both of them. Stolen afternoons with no commitment, no consequences, or so they thought. I also began researching Danielle's business partner, Sierra Walsh. The two women had built their PR firm together, but recent financial records suggested tension. Sierra owned 40% of the company to Danielle's 60%, a split that had apparently become contentious. Sierra's social media presence revealed a woman hungry for recognition, frustrated by playing second fiddle to Danielle's natural charisma. Her posts had a bitter edge, subtle digs at partners who take all the credit, and people who think they're irreplaceable. Interesting. A potential ally, or at least someone who might not rush to Danielle's defense when the time came. On Friday evening, Danielle announced another client emergency that would require weekend work. I nodded sympathetically and wished her luck, then spent Saturday following her to Jonas's penthouse building. The doorman was an elderly man named Frank, who seemed bored by his job. I struck up a conversation about the building's security features, pretending to be interested in renting a unit. It's a nice place, Frank said. Quiet residence, mostly. Well, except for the guy on the top floor. Always having visitors, if you know what I mean. Sounds like he knows how to enjoy life. His wife travels a lot for work. Guess he gets lonely. Frank winked conspiratorially. I spent an hour touring the building's amenities, memorizing the layout, the security cameras, the access points. Knowledge was power, and I was accumulating both. That night, Danielle came home glowing with satisfaction, spinning elaborate stories about her successful client presentation. I listened with apparent interest while planning her downfall. She'd made one critical mistake in choosing Jonas as her affair partner. The man was a narcissist who documented everything, posted constantly, and lived his life in public. His arrogance would be his weakness, and by extension hers. I went to bed that night with a smile on my face. Phase 1 was complete. Now the real fun could begin. Monday morning brought an opportunity I hadn't expected. Danielle's phone buzzed with a text while she was in the shower, and I saw Jonas's name on the screen. The message was simple. Can't wait for tonight. Same place, same time. I memorized the wording, then checked her calendar. She had blocked out 3 hours that evening for a strategy session with potential client. The lies came so easily to her now, but this time I had a different plan. I waited until Danielle left for work, then drove to an electronics store across town. Cash purchase, no credit cards, no records. I bought a burner phone and activated it with prepaid minutes. My next stop was Jonas's office building. The lobby directory listed Hartwell Capital Management on the 42nd floor. I took the elevator up, pretending to be lost, and spent 15 minutes observing the office layout through the glass doors. Jonas was exactly as I remembered. Tall, athletic, expensive suit, the kind of confident smile that came from never facing real consequences. He was in a meeting with several other men, gesturing animatedly while they nodded along. The receptionist was young, probably an intern, more interested in her phone than the random guy pretending to check his messages in the hallway. Perfect. That afternoon, I put my plan into motion. Using the burner phone, I sent a text to Jonas from an unknown number. This is Danielle's husband. We need to talk. Meet me at Pike Place Market. Main entrance, 6 p.m. Come alone. I watched his office building from a coffee shop across the street, waiting for his reaction. It didn't take long. Through the windows, I could see him pacing his office, phone pressed to his ear, probably trying to call Danielle, warn her about the message. But Danielle was in meetings all afternoon, according to her calendar. She wouldn't see his calls until it was too late. At 5:45 p.m., I positioned myself near Pike Place Market, with a clear view of the entrance. Jonas arrived exactly on time, looking nervous and checking his phone constantly. He wore a baseball cap and sunglasses, as if that would make him invisible. I let him wait for 20 minutes, watching him grow increasingly agitated. Other people walked past, tourists and locals heading home from work, but no angry husband appeared to confront him. Finally, I sent another text. Change of plans. I know about the hotel. I know about the necklace. End it now, or everyone knows. You have 24 hours. Jonas read the message and looked around frantically, as if I might be watching from somewhere nearby, which, of course, I was. He tried calling the number, but I'd already powered down the phone. No point in giving him a chance to negotiate or explain. This was about fear, uncertainty, the knowledge that his secret was no longer safe. I followed him back to his building, staying far enough behind to avoid detection. Jonas moved like a man being hunted, constantly checking over his shoulder, jumping at shadows. Perfect. That evening, Danielle came home early, claiming her client meeting had been canceled. She seemed distracted, checking her phone obsessively. Everything okay? I asked. Fine, just some work drama, nothing important. But I could see the tension in her shoulders, the way she kept glancing at her phone. Jonas had finally reached her, told her about the mysterious messages. They were both scared now, wondering who knew about their affair and what they planned to do with the information. I went to bed that night feeling satisfied. The first crack had appeared in their perfect little world. The next morning brought confirmation that my plan
I cheated on you with your brother. What's wrong?
I will not forgive you for this!
Watch more on Grammarly.com.
was working. Danielle left for work early, claiming an emergency meeting. I tracked her phone to Jonas's building, where she spent 2 hours presumably strategizing their response to the threat. But I wasn't done with them yet. Using my legitimate work credentials, I accessed the public records database and pulled Jonas's financial information. The man lived beyond his means, leveraging his investments to maintain his lifestyle. His penthouse was mortgaged to the limit, his car payments were substantial, and his credit cards carried significant balances. More importantly, his business was under investigation by the Securities and Exchange Commission for potential insider trading violations. The case was still preliminary, but if it progressed, Jonas could face serious criminal charges. This information was gold. A man facing financial ruin and potential prosecution would be desperate to avoid additional scandals. I spent the afternoon crafting my next move. Using a different burner phone, I sent Jonas a message with a single photo attachment, a picture of him and Danielle entering the boutique hotel, taken from across the street with a telephoto lens. The accompanying text was simple. Your wife might find this interesting, so might the SEC. I didn't have to wait long for a response. Jonas called the number immediately, but I let it go to voicemail. Listen, whoever this is, we can work something out. I have money. Tell me what you want. The desperation in his voice was music to my ears. He was already cracking under pressure, ready to negotiate with a threat he couldn't identify or locate. But money wasn't what I wanted. I wanted them to suffer the way I had suffered. I wanted their perfect little affair to crumble under the weight of fear and paranoia. That evening, Danielle was a nervous wreck. She barely touched her dinner, jumped at every sound, checked her phone constantly. You seem stressed, I observed. Maybe you should take a vacation. Get away from work for a while. I can't. Too many important clients right now. Too many people depending on me. The irony was delicious. She was trapped by the very lies she'd created to cover her affair. Every fake client meeting, every invented emergency, had built a web of obligations she couldn't escape without raising suspicions. I reached across the table and took her hand. Whatever's bothering you, we'll figure it out together. That's what marriage is about, right? Supporting each other through difficult times. She squeezed my hand and smiled, but her eyes remained worried. You're right, I'm lucky to have you. If only she knew how unlucky she really was. By Thursday, both Danielle and Jonas were showing serious signs of stress. I'd continued my campaign of psychological warfare, sending cryptic messages at random intervals, always from different numbers, always untraceable. My personal favorite was a simple text to Jonas. Your doorman Frank says hello. The beauty of that message was its ambiguity. I hadn't actually spoken to Frank about Jonas's affairs, but Jonas didn't know that. For all he knew, I'd corrupted his building's security, turned his own staff against him. Danielle, meanwhile, was making mistakes at work. Her assistant mentioned during a chance encounter at Starbucks that Danielle had been distracted, missing appointments, forgetting important details. The stress was affecting her professional performance, but I wasn't satisfied with simple psychological pressure. It was time to escalate. On Friday morning, I called in sick to work and spent the day implementing phase 2 of my plan. First stop, Jonas's office building. The security in the lobby was minimal, a single guard who spent most of his time reading newspapers. I wore a delivery uniform purchased online and carried a clipboard, the universal costume of invisibility. Package for Hartwell Capital Management, I told the guard. He barely looked up. 42nd floor. I took the elevator up and walked confidently through the office doors. Jonas was in his private office, door closed, apparently on an important call. The receptionist was at lunch, her desk abandoned. I placed a manila envelope on Jonas's desk and left without speaking to anyone. Inside the envelope was a single photograph. Jonas and Danielle kissing in the hotel lobby, clearly identifiable, impossible to explain away. No note, no demands, no explanation. Just the image and the knowledge that someone was watching, documenting, preparing for something. Milamanduising. My next stop was Danielle's office. Her PR firm occupied a trendy space in Capitol Hill, all exposed brick and industrial lighting. I knew the layout from previous visits, back when I'd been the supportive husband bringing lunch to his hardworking wife. Sierra Walsh was at her desk, looking frustrated as she scrolled through emails. I'd done more research on Sierra over the past week, and the picture that emerged was of a woman increasingly resentful of her business partner's success. "Jason!" Sierra looked surprised to see me. "What brings you here?" Thought I'd surprise Danielle with lunch. But her assistant said she's in meetings all day. "Yeah, she's been really busy lately. Lots of new client work." Sierra's tone was neutral, but I caught the slight emphasis on new client work. "You know how dedicated she is. Sometimes I worry she's working too hard, not taking care of herself." Danielle always lands on her feet. She's good at getting what she wants. Again, that subtle edge. Sierra knew something, or at least suspected. More importantly, she wasn't entirely happy about it. I spent a few more minutes making small talk, then left. But not before planting a seed of doubt. "If you ever notice Danielle acting strangely, stressed about something she won't talk about, let me know. I worry about her." Sierra nodded, but I could see the wheels turning. She was already wondering about Danielle's recent behavior, the mysterious meetings, the distracted attitude. My comment would make her pay closer attention. That afternoon, I received a call from Kevin. "Your surveillance software is showing some interesting activity," he said. "Your wife's been making a lot of calls to the same number, and her location data shows some unusual patterns." "What kind of patterns?" "She's been going to places that don't match her calendar entries. And get this, someone's been trying to hack into her email account. Multiple attempts from different IP addresses." That was concerning. "Any idea who?" "Could be anyone. Maybe your boyfriend is getting paranoid, trying to see if she's talking to other people about their situation." Jonas was cracking under pressure, making desperate moves that would only make things worse for both of them. Perfect. That evening, Danielle came home looking haggard. Her usually perfect appearance was disheveled, her makeup smudged, her hands shaking slightly. "Rough day?" I asked. "The worst. Clients are demanding, deadlines are impossible, and Sierra's been asking weird questions about my schedule." "What kind of questions?" "Just checking up on me, making sure I'm handling my client load properly." "It's probably nothing, but it feels like she doesn't trust me." The paranoia was spreading, exactly as I'd hoped. Danielle was starting to see threats everywhere, question everyone's motives. Her perfect little world was developing cracks. "Maybe you should talk to her, clear the air." "Maybe." Danielle rubbed her temples. "I just need this week to be over." "Weekend plans?" "Quiet weekend at home. No work, no stress, just us." I smiled and pulled her into a hug. "Sounds perfect." But I knew it wouldn't be quiet. Jonas was too panicked to stay away for long, and I had more surprises planned for both of them. Saturday morning, I put the final phase of my plan into motion. Using a combination of public records and social media research, I'd identified Jonas's wife, Patricia. She was a corporate lawyer who traveled frequently for work, currently in Chicago according to her LinkedIn profile. I created a fake email account and sent her a simple message. "Thought you should know what your husband does when you're out of town. Check his credit card statements for charges at the Fairmont Hotel." No photos, no explicit accusations, just enough information to make her investigate. Patricia Hartwell was a lawyer. She'd know how to dig up the truth. The beauty of this approach was its deniability. If questioned, I could claim ignorance. Just a concerned citizen who'd noticed something suspicious. Nothing illegal, nothing traceable. By Sunday evening, the plan was in full swing. Jonas had left 3 voicemails on Danielle's phone, each more desperate than the last. Patricia had apparently returned from Chicago early and was asking uncomfortable questions. The hotel charges were impossible to explain away. Danielle spent most of Sunday on the phone, whispering conversations in the garage where she thought I couldn't hear. But I'd planted listening devices throughout the house weeks ago, part of my comprehensive surveillance network. "We have to end this," I heard her tell Jonas. "It's getting too dangerous. Someone knows, and they're not going away." "I can't just pretend nothing happened," Jonas replied. "Patricia's threatening to leave me. She's talking about hiring a private investigator." Then we stop. No more meetings, no more calls. We go back to our normal lives and hope this blows over. What if it doesn't blow over? What if whoever's doing this wants money? Then we pay them, whatever it takes. I smiled as I listened to their conversation. They still thought this was about money, that they could buy their way out of the situation. They had no idea that their tormentor was sitting 20 feet away, listening to every word, planning their complete destruction. Money couldn't fix what I had planned for them. Nothing could. Monday morning brought the news I'd been waiting for. Patricia Hartwell had filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences and requesting an immediate separation of assets. The story made the local business news because of Jonas's high profile in the financial community. Danielle read the article on her phone during breakfast, her face going pale. "Something wrong?" I asked. "Just work stuff. A client's having some personal problems that might affect his account." "Anyone I know?" "I doubt it. Very boring financial stuff." She was still lying, even as her world crumbled around her. The commitment to deception was almost admirable. I went to work that day with a spring in my step. My colleagues noticed the change in my mood, commenting on how much happier I seemed lately. "Must be nice having such a stable home life," my boss said during our weekly meeting. "Not everyone's that lucky." Only he knew. That afternoon, I received a text from Danielle. "Working late tonight. Don't wait up." But her location tracker showed she was at Jonas's building, probably trying to figure out their next move. I decided to pay them a visit. The penthouse building's security was laughably easy to bypass. I'd studied the patterns for weeks, knew exactly when the doorman took his dinner break. A service elevator provided access to the upper floors without passing through the main lobby. Jonas's apartment was on the 48th floor, accessible via a private elevator that required a key card. But building maintenance used a MasterCard that I'd cloned weeks earlier during a brief conversation with a distracted technician. The apartment was everything I'd expected. Expensive furniture, floor-to-ceiling windows, the kind of ostentatious display of wealth that screamed insecurity. I could hear voices from the living room. Jonas and Danielle arguing about their situation. "This is your fault," Danielle was saying. "You were careless, left evidence everywhere." "My fault. You're the one who insisted on the hotel meetings, the expensive gifts. I wanted to be discreet." "Discreet? You post everything on social media. Your entire life is public." I positioned myself in the hallway where I could hear clearly but remain hidden. They were turning on each other, exactly as I'd hoped. "We need to figure out who's doing this," Jonas said. "Hire a private investigator, trace the phone numbers, and tell them what? That we're having an affair and someone found out? That'll go well. Better than waiting for the next shoe to drop." I decided it was time to drop that shoe myself. Using my phone, I sent a text to both of them simultaneously. "Having a nice chat? Wave to the camera." The effect was immediate. Both phones buzzed at the same time, and I heard them gasp as they read the message. "Oh my God," Danielle whispered. "They're here. They're watching us right now." Jonas ran to the windows, looking down at the street below. "I don't see anyone." "Not down there, you idiot. Here, in the building." They spent the next 10 minutes searching the apartment, checking closets, looking under furniture, growing increasingly panicked. I remained hidden in the hallway, enjoying their terror. Finally, they gave up the search and returned to the living room. "We have to call the police," Danielle said. "And tell them what? That someone's sending us anonymous messages? They'll ask why, and then we'll have to explain about the affair." So we tell them it's blackmail. Blackmail requires a demand for money. These messages don't ask for anything. They're just taunting us. Jonas was right, of course. I wasn't interested in money or conventional blackmail. This was about justice, about making them pay for their betrayal in the most painful way possible. I sent another text. "Justice doesn't require payment, only truth." This time Danielle started crying. "This is insane. Whoever's doing this is completely unhinged." "Maybe it's your husband," Jonas suggested. Maybe he found out and he's playing games with us. Jason, are you kidding? He doesn't have the imagination for something like this. Besides, he's been completely normal at home. Supportive, loving, concerned about my stress levels. The dismissal stung, but it also confirmed my advantage. Even now, with their world collapsing around them, Danielle couldn't conceive that her boring, reliable husband might be capable of sophisticated revenge. Then who? Jonas asked. I don't know. Maybe someone from your office. Someone who wants to destroy your reputation. Or maybe Patricia hired someone before she filed for divorce. They spent another hour speculating, growing more paranoid and desperate with each theory. I listened to it all, cataloging their fears, their weaknesses, their growing desperation. Finally, they decided to leave separately, avoid being seen together until the situation resolved itself. Danielle would go home to her unsuspecting husband. Jonas would deal with his divorce proceedings. I waited until they were both gone before leaving the building. The evening had been even more successful than I'd hoped. They were completely rattled, turning on each other, making mistakes that would only accelerate their downfall. But I wasn't finished with them yet. The final act was still to come. At home, Danielle arrived looking emotionally exhausted. She claimed her late client meeting had been difficult, full of unreasonable demands and impossible deadlines. Poor baby, I said, pulling her into a comforting hug. Maybe you should consider dropping some of your more demanding clients. Life's too short to spend it dealing with people who don't appreciate you. I can't. The money's too good, and the firm needs every account we can get. The firm will survive. Your health and happiness are more important. She looked at me with something that might have been genuine affection. You're too good to me. I don't deserve you. For once, she was telling the truth. That night, as she slept beside me, I finalized my plans for